Live with CDP, a weekly sports and entertainment podcast live on YouTube, Facebook Live, Twitter, and on audio via Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, and Anchor FM. Now here's your host, Chris Palme.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Live with CDP Sports Talk, Season 4, Episode 34, overall 199. I'm looking forward to my guest today, Donna Hopkins. She's a co-host reporter with Tony McGee, Pro Football Plus for Mid-Atlantic Sportsnet in the Washington, Maryland area. And before I bring her on, just wanted to let you guys know, Live with CDP Sports Talk is brought to you by Barry Cullen Chevrolet, 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Auto Mall. You can check out their website, barrycullen.com, for their newest selection of used and new GM vehicles. And you guys can also give them a call at 519-824-0210. Again, that's Barry Cullen Chevrolet dealership, 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Auto Mall. Check out barrycullen.com as well. And thank you so much to Mark Cullen and Barry Cullen for sponsoring Live with CDP Sports Talk as well. Guys, if you can just bear with me for a minute, I'm going to bring on my guest, Donna Hopkins, and we're going to talk a little bit about her career in broadcasting and radio and TV. And also, she's a reporter for the Washington Commanders, so we'll talk a little Commanders football. And also, she's a breast cancer survivor as well, and she has her own website up, her own business, Hopkins Breast Cancer Inc. And she's also had a book out as well. So just bear with me, guys, and I'm going to bring on Donna Hopkins. Good afternoon, Donna. How are you doing?
Hey, Chris. It's good to be on with you today.
Good. How's everything in Washington right now?
Well, we're talking about the Commanders, not so good. But if we're talking about just in general, I'm good. The weather is a little crisp now, but it's fall time and everything is good. It's football time.
Same here, and I'm lucky being in Toronto, near Toronto. I have the Canadian Football League, the National Football League going on, and the U.S. and Canadian college football's on. So right now, every weekend, I'm watching about 20 hours of football.
Oh wow, you're overkill.
So I just love the game, and what a difference a year makes compared to last year or even 2 years ago with the pandemic and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm just glad. I mean, I've been at the games for the last 2 years, but as we know that it hasn't been like the previous years. Locker rooms are open back up, so you were limited to the players, and the field was not the same. But now it's getting back to what we were used to as far as covering games and being able to talk one-on-one with players so that you could get to know them a little bit better. So I'm glad, although we're not out of this pandemic yet, but we're starting to turn the tables, and I'll be glad when we're able to turn it all the way.
Yeah, Canada just announced today they're going to loosen up their travel restrictions as of October 1st and stuff like that as well. But like I said, things are a lot better than they were 2 years ago. So I was going to say, hey, just to honor you, Donna, I had to put on I keep saying RFK Stadium, I guess because I grew up with that stadium, but FedEx Field in Washington background for you.
It's all right, Chris, to talk about RFK because I started my broadcast career there when I came from West Virginia after graduating from college. So the RFK was what people remember back in the days when this team was winning. And then, with FedEx Field now, which, hopefully this team will get a new stadiums in the near future.
What was the problem with this stadium? Was it built pretty quickly and rushed, or it was just never a good fit for this team?
Well, if everybody knows about Jack Kent Cooke, which was the previous owner before Dan Snyder, he was sick and he wanted to get this stadium up before he passed away. He still didn't get to see it because he passed away before it went up. So I think it was a rush process in trying to build this stadium so that he could see the new home. And in the process of doing that, it probably wasn't the best constructed stadium because it's already outdated. A lot of things are going wrong with it. A lot of people talk about that if you're set in the wrong place and if it's storming, that you may have, the sewage thing that came down last year, and then the rain leaks within different spots. And you look across the NFL and all the new stadiums that have been built, the one in Vegas, the one with the Rams that shares that with the Chargers. And then, Indianapolis and a lot of the other people have newer stadiums, and the Vikings. Washington being one of the prime cities of football, you want to have a state-of-the-art stadium up. And so this has been building, and they want to take it back to DC, but it may not happen because of the land and tearing down the old RFK. But we don't know where that stadium will be or how long it's going to take. But hopefully in the near future that this team will have a new stadium. But, Chris, doesn't matter about new stadiums if you don't have the right product on the field in getting winning back here in DC area.
Absolutely. I was going to say, what are they using RFK Stadium for right now? Or is it sitting abandoned in Washington?
It's sitting abandoned like a ghost stadium. And if you go inside, some people have went inside, and it's, grass has grown up, and weeds and everything else has taken over that stadium. So they're in the process of tearing down that stadium, and they wanted to put the new stadium there, but politics and all of that go into getting the land to build that stadium there would be perfect, because if anybody has been here for the Wizards games, that new stadium that took place down the Capitol One, they built that area up around that stadium, and that's what they wanted to do to the RFK. But with the politics that play in all of this kind of stuff, I don't know if it's going to be in that spot, and I doubt it. Right now, the word is that it'll be somewhere in the Virginia area.
Okay, I was going to say, and since I have you on here, what's your thoughts on the new name change? I'm finally getting used to the Commanders, but I just wanted to see what you thought since you cover the team and you're from this area.
Hey, Chris, I've been through all the names: the Washington Redskins, the Washington football team, and now the Washington Commanders. And I understand about the process of why they wanted to change the name of Washington Redskins. And I'm okay with that. But I was okay with the Washington football team. I thought that was a cool name. Everybody thinks that you have to have a tag name on with the city's name as being Washington. So I was good with the Washington football team, but I'm okay with the Washington Commanders. I thought that would be the name. I actually kind of told people that that's what it was going to be, because you think this is a military town. Ron Rivera is military, so it was only fitting the Washington Commanders. So I mean, it rolls off my tongue just like the Washington football team, just like the Washington Redskins. So I don't even have a problem with the Commanders, because it fits. And like I said, you got to get past the name. I'm always talking about the team as a whole versus just the name. But I'm okay with all the names that they had, and the Commanders work for me.
And I like the fact they kept the team colors the same. I love the colors, and I think they kept the fight song similar, just changed the name to Commanders, or did they change it quite a bit?
Yeah, let me just say this, Chris. The colors are the same except the black. I don't understand the black. They're supposed to break out the black uniforms this week against the Cowboys. And I still don't understand the black, because it has nothing to do with the previous colors and everything. And it really doesn't go. I thought the uniforms is okay. I thought they could do a better job of that. But like you said, they kept the colors and everything. So, it is what it is and everything as far as that goes.
Yeah, like I said, I just like to see the franchise get back to their winning ways, because it makes the NFC East stronger, and it makes the National Football League stronger. And growing up as a kid in the 70s and 80s, I remember Joe Theismann and the Hogs and Gary Clark and Art Monk and Darrell Green. And Joe Theismann started his football career here in Canada with the Toronto Argonauts, and he was just a fumble away from winning the 71 Grey Cup championship against Calgary. So he would have had a championship ring before his Super Bowl with Washington.
You know what? Those were the years. I mean, when I started covering this Washington football team, and I've covered them during the winning years and in the last stretch when they haven't been winning. And the NFC East, and you had, you know, when you had even the Cardinals in there, if people
Yes.
remember, it was the Giants, the Eagles, Washington, Dallas, and the Cardinals. And those teams were all battling. Everybody was good. All those teams ended up with 10 wins, and you would be fighting to the last week of who was going to go to the playoffs. And nobody was, you know, it wasn't a struggle as far as bad teams, but over the last 5 or 6 years, nobody has been good. I mean, teams, they've been winning the NFC East with 9 wins or 8 wins or something like that. So it has not been good for a long time, where it's been a battle as far as who's coming out of that division. And it was always going to be, you know, one or the other. It was like changing up, and Dallas and Washington dominated for the longest time as far as being on the top. But that was one of the best divisions in the NFL, is that NFC East, and it has not been the best in a long time. And I'm hoping that those tables turn soon, that NFC East will be strong again.
Yeah, and I was saying the last time the NFC East had a repeat winner was the 2004 Eagles. So it's rotated every year since 2005. And like I said, right now it's early in the season. The Eagles are 3-0, and Dallas is 2-1. And Washington, I guess the Giants are 2-1, and Washington's 1-2. But I would tell fans right now, don't panic. It's still September. I would start. Pardon me.
Pump the brakes.
Yeah, like I said, I think maybe by the end of October is when you kind of find out who's legit and who's not. I figured another 4 weeks, another 4 games, but I wouldn't panic right now if I was a Washington fan. But one concern would be the offensive line, because I know the Eagles' defense has improved this year. I don't expect 9 sacks, and I was gonna say those 9 sacks, were they all on Wentz, or do you think the offensive line broke down in some of those plays?
Oh, I think it was a combination of both of them. Carson Wentz, I thought, held on to the ball a little bit too long on some of the plays, not just in the Eagles game, but also in the previous game against the Lions. But I think it was a lot of the breakdowns with the offensive line. And right now they're beat up. And we're talking about the third game of the season, and they're already beat up. When you look at this Washington offensive line, it has been a struggle over the last probably 5 years or so, where they're talking about the depth on the offensive line. You look at some of the great offensive linemen that they let go that could have been here, that could have helped this team. Eric Flowers, who they did not sign back, and he was one of the top offensive linemen. You talk about Brandon Scherf, who, you know, stayed injured a lot, but he was one of the top ones also. And then you talk about Trent Williams, who was playing through injuries all the time, and he's up in San Francisco, one of the top offensive linemen. I just mentioned 3 right there that could help this team right now. And then Morgan Moses, that's a fourth one that they let get away. And Morgan Moses, Trent Williams, they played through injuries and was on that field every game. And, you know, if you think about those 4 players and you still had them on your roster, this offensive line probably wouldn't be what it is. They've got a lot of young players, but right now they lost their starting center. They're in trouble right now on that offensive line. And how goes the offense is how goes that offensive line. And Carson Wentz can only do so much. But like I said, the only fault that I can see in him is get rid of the ball a little faster. And the offensive coordinator, I think he has to scheme up some other things to help out that offensive line. What it is, I don't know yet, but they've got to get some bodies in on the offensive line here in Washington.
I was gonna say, and I'm old school. I grown up in '70s and '80s. To me, it all starts with the O line and D line, and then you add from those 2 lines, because, like you said, it's the quarterback can only do so much as well. But Carson Wentz had that problem in Philadelphia as well, holding on the ball too long, and that's why he ended up getting injured a lot with Philadelphia as well. So they're gonna have to, like you mentioned, Donna, they're gonna have to try to get that ball out of his hands quicker, and maybe try to use a little more of the running game to take a little more pressure off Carson.
Hey, Chris, you hit it on the head. We were talking about on the show, Tony McGee's Pro Football Plus show, just the other night, is that they've got to be able to run the ball and balance this out. I mean, I know they've got a great passing team, but the pass blocking is not good right now. The run blocking is a little better. And so we know we've got Terry McLaurin. We know we've got Curtis Samuel. and we know we got Jahan Dotson, and then we've got, the tight ends, Thomas, but still you've got to be able to run the ball. And to me, in that Eagles game, Washington was able to run the ball a little better than they were as far as passing the ball. And they seem like they went away from that. In the last couple of years, they have not stuck to the running game as much as I thought that they should. And during the Joe Gibbs era and all of that, it started with the running game. So you've got to make a team honest by being able to build your running game. They've got all the weapons and everything, but when you've got a beat up offensive line, you've got to change it up and be able to get in the trenches and run that ball. And to me, against the Eagles, they went away from that running game too fast for me. I understand that they get behind and they've got to play catch up, like in the Lions game, down 22-0 at the half, against the Eagles, down 24-0. But still, you've got to be able to establish that running game to make teams honest. And to me, Washington doesn't not stick with the running game as much as they should. Scott Turner, to me, has to mix it up better as far as his play calling, because I think that it's that same old play calling that we've seen in the last couple of years. And they kept saying, we need a quarterback. We need a quarterback. Well, you got your quarterback that you said in Carson Wentz, but we still haven't seen anything different as far as the creativity, as far as his play calling.
And I was going to say, the Eagles obviously led the NFL in rushing last year and have one of the best offensive lines. I thought Washington did a nice job shutting down Philly's run game on Sunday. And even Jalen Hurts, they contained him as well. And they forced Hurts to beat him through the air, which he did. What are your thoughts on Jalen Hurts in his third year as a quarterback? And do you think he's legitimately as good as people are thinking he is now?
I would say pump the brakes a little bit right there too, because
Okay.
I think last year it was a lot of question marks pertaining what kind of quarterback Jalen Hurts was. And I think that you can say that he looks like he's going to be a good quarterback in the NFL. I still think that 3 games into the season is too early to say, hey, put the crown on him and make him the player of the year and so forth. This is 3 games that he's played. Is he a better quarterback showing that from last year? I think so. I think that he's made a step forward, but I still think that he has to improve a lot more in his game, because when you look at the game against Washington, the defense did not play well, Washington's defense, but I thought that they did some great things when they had the Eagles contained, like you said, the running game as far as Hurts. They gave up the big plays, and that's what kills Washington all the time is on 4th down when they had them pinned a couple of times. They gave up that big play and ended up touchdown and ended up setting themselves up for another touchdown. So Hurst did what he had to do in the games so far. But I want to see him go up against some of the other defenses that are more solid than Washington to see how he handles that pressure and everything. Has he taken a step forward? I would say yes. How much? I'm not sure yet. So I'm like you, something you said before, let's just wait and see how this spins out down in October, late October, when we started getting into the trenches even more so. So I think it's a little early to put the crown on his head to say he's like Patrick Mahomes or Lamar Jackson or all of those. I think that he has the potential to be a good quarterback, a great quarterback. But I think it's a little bit too early right now to assess him with that title.
Definitely. Fingers crossed. And the Eagles have a tough game Sunday. I've told my friends and fellow Eagle fans, don't take the Jacksonville Jaguars lightly. They're 2-1.
Hey, they won last week.
38-10. And they broke their 18 or 19 game road losing streak. They beat a very good, or supposedly a very good Chargers team right in LA. And Trevor Lawrence, and I think this is his second year in the league, looks a lot better. And Doug Peterson, who I'm still a fan of, I think has so far done a nice job with Jacksonville in 3 games so far.
Yeah. I think that when you assess the whole NFL right now, because you look at Kansas City, who lost also, you like, how in the world did they lose that game? And I think the Bills, is Miami for real? Well, they look like they for real started off 3-0, and to beat a Bills team like they did and hold them to 17 points. So I think that when you look around the whole NFL right now, you got to kind of like back up and say, hey, you know what? It's a lot of teams in transition, and you can't put your foot on anybody right now, because when you look across the whole NFL, teams that are winning and losing, and Tampa Bay right now is beat up, and New England look like that they're done. But you just don't know when you get to October, late October, things started to settle down. Because what I look at, Chris, is that because you can't hit in training camps anymore, and most people don't play their players in preseason, that to me, it takes about 4 weeks for you to see teams and players get into the football grind of things, where they've been hitting for 4 weeks, and you start to be able to see which team is going to be good, or which team is going to be struggling. So I think that the early games, these first 4, is just teams getting their feet wet, and in about 4 more weeks, you're going to see the really good teams step forward and everything. And who that is, I don't know yet, because it keeps changing each week.
Yes, absolutely. Now I got to ask your thoughts on this, and we're about the same age. I remember the NFL when they had 6 preseason games, and they've already cut it down to 3. Do you think that is enough preseason football for these guys and for the coaches and management to assess players and to get some guys some work, or do you feel that preseason is becoming more and more unnecessary?
Well, it's to me it is necessary, but because they don't hit in training camp, so you can't get a good feel unless you have teams. I do like the fact that some teams travel to play other teams. I remember that Washington, the last time they had anybody to come, Tom Brady said it was pretty much a waste for him, and then Houston came in. It was a fight for most of the practice, and they had to separate them on other fields. But I think that you get a good measure of what you can do when you have another team coming in. I think that the preseason, it is important. Now, did they need 6 games? No. What has to happen, though, to me, is they need to increase the roster side from 53 man, because too many teams are already, you look across the NFL just 3 weeks into the season, it's already a lot of injuries. Half of that, Tony McGee, Gary Clark, and all those guys tell me it's because that they're not hitting in training camp, and because your body is not used to the football part of it until you get into the regular season, and that's when you're allowed to hit. So they made these players a little soft by not the bargaining agreement, by not allowing them to hit in practice throughout training camp. So I would say that yes, 3 games should be enough for you to be able to get into the football end of it, only if you're hitting in the training camps and everything. So I would say the most important thing moving forward is for the NFL to increase the roster side to at least 60 players, because they increase the practice squad to more players, which to me, that doesn't matter as much. But because of the injuries and everything, and then you increase the season by a game or so, that you need more bodies to be on the field, because football is a brutal sport. And 3 weeks into the season, and teams are already hurting. Washington, you look at their offensive line, and you got a lot of football to be played, but you got a line that's already decimated. So I would say the most important thing, along with those preseason games to me that are still important, that you have to increase the roster side. And I'm surprised in all these years, because it's been a lot of years that this has been 53. So we
Yes.
need to at least increase it to 60.
When was the last roster change? Because I remember growing up, it was 45 to 48, and I don't remember, like you said, when the last time the NFL increased the roster size.
I know it's been 20 plus years
Years.
since that's happened. And that's too long. And I'm not understanding the ownership and the NFL. And I understand the ownership meaning that if you put 60 more, put a roster to be 60, that means that you got to come out your pocket a little bit more as far as the salary cap. That to me, it should be important for them to be able to have bodies to be able to play on this field, versus you saying that you don't want to pay an extra few players and everything. And we're not talking about increasing it to 65. We're just saying from 53 to 60 at least.
Yeah.
So I still think it's the politics of football. Them they want to add games and everything, but they don't want to do the necessary things to add the players to go with those games. Because if you're playing more games, that means that it's that you need more bodies out there on the roster and everything. So hopefully the NFL, will see the need, and the owners will see the need that we need to increase this roster that has not been changed for at least probably 30 years.
I agree. And it's not like the National Football League cannot afford to bump the roster up to
Exactly.
even 60.
Exactly. So
But
let
I
go.
guess,
Open those wallets.
yes, absolutely. And they're $1 billion business. And like I said, when the CBA is up, the NFL Players Association really should be pushing for that to get the roster increased to at least 60.
Yeah, yeah. But you know how that goes, the process and everything. And I think that it's going to come down to the right people being in the ear of the decision makers.
Definitely. Okay, I'm going to get to some questions, Donna. Can you just tell my audience here in Ontario, I'm just outside of Toronto, a little bit about yourself, and when did you decide you wanted to pursue a career in broadcasting and media?
It's so funny that you asked me that, because when I tell upcoming broadcasting students, I told them at 10 years old, I knew that I wanted to be in sports broadcasting. I was either going to be a sports broadcaster or a professional women's basketball player, because I was involved in sports all of my life out of West Virginia. Go Mountaineers, go Falcons. Went to college in West Virginia on a basketball and track scholarship. So I knew earlier on that this is the career that I wanted to pursue. Again, either sports broadcaster and or professional women's basketball player. One did not work out so well, but I'm good with that. Good with that too. And the funny thing about it, I tell people that I rooted for the Washington Redskins name at the time. I was a Redskins fan all of my life. At 10 years old, had a few Dallas sisters that were rooted for that team, and we used to fight.
Oh,
But to be able to cover the team all these years that you grew up rooting for, that to me is a win-win right there. But trust me when I say I can be partial and I can be hard in telling them the truth about the team. So I'm not that fan but I'm a media person that reports on the team, but I'm always rooting that they'll do well.
I was going to say, and I had an opportunity to cover my childhood team here in Canada called the Toronto Argonauts. And I kept professional, but I also had to restrain myself from cheering in the press box, because I think there's an unwritten rule in all the press boxes in sports that media
No
can't cheer.
cheering.
No cheering,
No
yeah.
cheering.
So that was quite the experience, and that was something I really liked. And I got to interview players after the game, the coaches, and write a digital story about my experience. And you get to see the game from a different perspective up in the media box than you do as a fan in the stands.
Yeah, and the great thing about it is I've met some great people, during the Joe Gibbs era. Know all those guys. Daryl Green and I are like family now. The Charles Manns, Dexter Manley, Ken Harvey's, the Tony McGee's, the Gary Clark's, Ricky Sanders, Art Monk. That list, I'm just naming like those top players.
Yeah.
It's almost like we're family. Stay in contact with them. But it's been a great experience being able. I mean, the part that I probably love the most is being able to sit down with the players and just talking to them about other things outside of football, getting to know them that way. So I started off in the radio, working for a gospel station, spinning albums, doing sports on the weekends, and I did newspaper and James Brown, CBS Sports is my mentor. I used to go down to watch him when he was on WUSA 9 TV as the sports director and the main person there. And he kind of like groomed me and helped me come along. And then Daryl Green told Tony McGee, hey, I think you should give her an opportunity. And I've been with Tony for 20 some plus years.
Wow.
Tony McGee's Pro Football Plus TV show is in its 38th season, one of the longest running shows here in the Washington, D.C. area. So I've been fortunate enough to be able to kick it with Tony and Gary, which I've got to always keep under control. And Gary is such a big fan that I have to tell him that he needs to just sit back because he don't tell the truth. I'm the reporter that I tell them I got the scoop and everything. So it's been fun because it's almost like a family show right now that we bring various guests on from the national media to the local media to all the former players to the current players. So it's kind of like a fun show. Somebody said the other day it was almost like friends sitting down talking about football on the couch.
That's awesome. And one thing I've learned about this show and doing broadcasting is listening skills, because you just answered my next question about having mentors. Now, I was going to say, what is James Brown like in person? And besides James Brown, did you have anybody else that kind of mentored you as well?
Yeah, James Brown is to me one of the most genuine, kind-hearted, um, great personalities, just a great person in general, overall. Sometimes people get titles and positions and whatever, and it's all about that. But he is about just being able to help in the community, help other people come up. Just a good person overall. And when you meet him in person and whatever, he's that welcoming person. So I can't, he's just one of the best people in general to know. And he was a great mentor in, helping me along the way. I mean, Pam Oliver is one of my favorites that I kind of like watched over the years and everything. We became friends. And I think Darryl Green, I mean, he was the cornerback for the Washington team, but he and I, during the course of me covering the Washington Redskins at the time, became good friends. He opened his arms up and welcomed me into his family. So spiritually and professionally and personally, he's been a great mentor, a great friend, a great leader. And, Tony, even Tony McGee, he's been there as family also. But Darryl was the one who kind of like embraced me in a world of football where women was just getting into it, getting into the locker rooms. And he protected me, when I was there covering the team when he was there. And like I said, James Brown has been a great mentor, but it's so many people I could probably name that have been there in adding those nuggets of wisdom in my ear and everything. But I think the most important thing is to always be professional, no matter what you're doing in this field. And I tell people, I said, I don't ever want anybody to have anything to say that Donna did this and that, because it's a lot of, PR people have come through in organizations. And I remember Brian Mitchell telling me one time, he said, when Donna come into the locker room, that's what she's about. Her head is this way, and she's there, to cover the team. So, for young broadcasters coming up, just go through the process of learning your trade, and don't try to be anybody else but yourself. Sometimes people try to take over other people's styles and everything like that. But I, kind of like learn, just be yourself and just be true to who you are, and just respect players and other people in this industry, because it can, be brutal.
Yeah, we had a reporter here a couple weeks ago in Montreal make a comment about one of the Toronto Blue Jays catchers, Alexander Kirk. I guess he's a little overweight, and he made a comment about it. And this gentleman in Montreal ended up having to delete his Twitter account because he was getting bombarded with criticism for what he said, and he had to make an apology too. So you also have to think about what you say and post on social media as well.
Yeah, because I think that you got to remember that these athletes are individuals too. They bleed just like all the rest of us. And I think there's so many great stories out there that you don't have to be brutal and negative and coming at it. I mean, just report the facts as they are. And sometimes, like I said, just be kind. A lot of times, you find people in the media, not just the reporters, but fans and everything. We just got to learn how to be a little kinder to each other and be considerate of how we would want to be reported on. I told someone that being in the locker room, I never did like to be in the locker room and still don't, but I put together myself a little formula for being there to make myself comfortable, because being an athlete, in college.
Oh, I think I just lost Donna. Guys, just bear with me. It might be your Wi-Fi connection. Oh, you're back.
Yeah.
You're back. It happens.
Yeah. So what I tried to do is do my own formula as far as I when I first started, they used to bring the players out, but when the game comes, you go into the locker room. And when I went in for the first time, I tell people this story. I was like, oh no, I can't handle this. And then I left out. I said, man, you got to get your story together and whatever. You go back. So Doug Williams saved me that day because he gave me the interview outside the locker room. So what I try to do is I go into the post-game interview room, stay there for a while, and then what I do is give the players time enough to dress as much as I can, because I respect them too. They don't want us in there. Trust me, I don't want to be in there really. So I think that as a reporter, you've got to do some things for your comfort level, and then respecting the athletes also.
Absolutely. And I was going to say, how did you end up with Tony McGee Pro Football Plus again as a co-host and reporter? And overall, what do you remember your first show, and were you a little bit nervous?
Daryl Green. Daryl
Daryl Green.
Green was the one who told Tony
Okay.
that, him and Tony were teammates at the time. And so he told Tony, I think Tony was only in his second season or third or fourth season doing the show. And he said, I think you should give this young lady opportunity because she's really good. And so Tony gave me an opportunity, and I've been there since then. And the first time on, I wasn't like a co-host on with Tony. I was more of just a reporter, reporting on at the games and doing special interviews, like on the players, what they're doing. I remember doing one where a player's pet was a snake, and I was like, no, I don't think I want to hold that snake. But those special human interest stories, I love them because I went to the player's house, and I can remember Daryl Green. I went over to his house for Christmas and recorded his kids and whatever. And they said that they watched that tape so much because it was Mark Slorette and Daryl's kids and some of the other players' kids, and they were like singing Christmas songs and whatever. And I, did a piece on them. And they said that they go back and look at that tape so much that now it's broke and they can't even look at it. So I was probably nervous when I first got started, but that's why that James Brown mentoring was so key. And I remember, and I think about, telling people you got to put in the time if you want to really succeed, because I would do my broadcast at the radio station, go to my other job. Then I would go down at 11 p.m. at night to be at the TV station with James Brown, just to kind of like learning the ropes and everything. Have to get back up at 6 o'clock. So you got to put in the time, if you want to be or make it in this business. But I'm still nervous today. You may not think so, but I'm still nervous today when I get on broadcast, when I'm doing stand-ups. But I try to, I had some great interviews with some of the new players, Jahan Dotson and Brian Robinson, and even some of the second-year players, Jamin Davis, and to sit down at training camp and just to learn who they are outside of football. So I had fun doing that, but I try to kind of like make the players at ease by just kind of like talking about nothing, let them know a little bit about myself too and whatever, because sometimes when they talk to the media, they can clam up to say we're the enemies, but I try to let them know that I'm just a regular person just like them. I just happen to be a sports reporter. So to answer your question, Chris, I was nervous. And then I was even more nervous when I came on as a co-host with Tony, but I do my homework. I study hard. I don't try to act like I know football, but I pick Tony's brain and Gary's brain to understand the concept of all the things. But I think being an athlete myself and playing basketball and running track, I understand the scope of sports and everything as far as just the broadcasting in and just how, sports go in general as far as covering and everything. I may not play football, but I understand playing sports.
I was going to say, do your homework. And also, what I try to do with my guests on here, or now I'm doing live interviews, is build a rapport with people. Before I do a podcast or before I do a live interview with my microphone, I talk to my guests just to get to know them and stuff like that, and build their trust and build the rapport. And that's huge in this industry.
Yeah, it's the key. And you mentioned something earlier about listening skills.
Yes,
You've got to be. I think that's one of the major tools as a reporter writing. I tell people writing and listening, because to me, when you listen, they some of the answers lead you to another question
yeah,
as far as what you want to. And then not only that, let instead of having all your questions wrote down on there, you generally know where you're going with your interview. But instead of having so written out and everything, I think that you have to make sure that the guests know that you're listening to what they've got to say and that they've got your full attention. And those listening tools, not only in sports broadcasting or communications in general, but in life general, we've got to be better at listening instead of talking so much.
absolutely. And I'm still a work in progress, and I'm
We
still
all
working on.
are, Chris. We
I'm
all
wor-
are.
and I'm still working on the listening and stuff as well. And we have a campaign up here in Canada called "Let's Talk" for mental health stuff. Bell Canada does "Let's Talk," but one of my friends who's out in West said it should be called also "Let's Listen To," because listening skills are just as important as talking skills.
If not more.
Yes. So, and this leads to my next question I wanted to ask you. I was reading up on your bio here. Can you just tell my audience a little bit about your days in basketball, what position you played in track, and what was your favorite moment in both of those sports?
I love sports. I mean, I was meant to play. I was meant to broadcast it. I remember I started playing basketball in our backyard in West Virginia with my brothers. Neighborhood kids would come over, and the boys never did want to put the girls on their team and whatever. So I remember out there with my brothers, the ball rolled over to me, and I was like, "Can I play? Can I play?" And they was like, "Nah, you ain't playing with us. Go somewhere." So I took the ball and said, if I don't play, nobody gets to play or whatever. So I used to play. My dad put a rim in the back of our shed, and we beat down the dirt. We didn't have a paved basketball court. It was grass that we beat down to dirt and everything. So my basketball career started on the back of the backyard with the hoop up on the shed, playing with my brothers on with the neighborhood kids. And then I went on and didn't play basketball until my junior year in high school because I just didn't like the way the program was put together. So I didn't get a scholarship at first going to Fairmont. I wanted to go to James Madison or the University of Maryland to play there, but I ended up exactly where I was supposed to be at. Got a scholarship. When I got to Fairmont, I was the shooting guard. I think that's the best position on the basketball court, the shooting guard. So I ended up starting. I went to Fairmont. They hadn't won a game in forever. And I'm thinking, like, what I want to go to this program for? They don't even know how to win, but they got a new coach when I got there. And I ended up getting the captain right off the bat because I worked hard in basketball. I may not be I probably wasn't the greatest basketball player of all time, but I was pretty good. As I pat myself on the back because I worked hard at my craft to be better. Because when I got to Fairmont, I had to get better at shooting. My basketball coach told me Magic Johnson is my all-time favorite basketball player. And coach used to tell me, Magic doesn't put pressure on himself. Why are you? So along with basketball, they saw me jumping, and I ran track in AAU as a kid. And then I ended up running track in high school all 4 years. So they saw me jumping. So they wanted me to high jump in track. And so I got a scholarship in track my second year of college. And I ended up not even really high jumping, but I ended up being one of the best hurdlers. And I picked that up in college, and I ran the 200. And they wanted me to run the 400, but I was like, no, that's too long for me. I want the quick. So I switched from the 100 to the 100-meter hurdles, and my 200 was my favorite race of all time. So basketball was track and basketball was good for me, kept me in condition. But my basketball coach said I had to learn how to challenge my speeds, because he said I had one speed. So basketball was fun for me. I enjoyed playing it in college. One of my fondest memories was against the University of Pittsburgh and West Virginia University. That was the first time I saw a 6'10" girl playing for both of those teams, because our biggest girl was 6'2". And I had my best game against big opponents like that. So, I mean, basketball was so many fun memories. I just hated that it was over when it was over. And I played even when I came to the Washington, D.C. area. I played on a military team for about probably 20 more years after college, because of my passion for the sports. And then many people don't realize that being a breast cancer survivor, I'll just jump into that because it kind of like fits into where I'm going with this. Being a 2-time breast cancer survivor in 97 and 99 and 2010, although I thought that the breast cancer was going to be, the big whammies and whatever, to learn that you have cancer and nobody wants to hear those words. But I think my attitude through all of that is that you can survive everything. And I never did see cancer as being a death sentence. And I just knew that I was going to overcome, because early detection saves lives. And I found the cancer early. But it was 2010, unforeseeable medical disaster, I call it. Went into the hospital for a simple surgery, and was only supposed to be in the hospital for 5 days. Ended up in the hospital for 2.5 weeks, 6 surgeries later, and the amputation of my left leg, lower left leg. And that could be devastating for any person, and even more so as an athlete. But I've always been one of the people that turned my adversities around into a way to help others. And the breast cancer, I started a breast cancer foundation that helps breast cancer survivors in the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area with their financial. And then for the amputation community, I'm always trying to support them, helping them. And I tried out, I told you, Chris, I never let sports go. I tried out for the Paralympics, trying to make the Paralympics with the Rio one in the 100. And I started rowing also professionally, won a lot of first place medals and everything in some of the regattas, because I was trying to get into the Paralympics in rowing. And someone saw me running, challenged athletes, gave me my running leg. And so I tell people that I never let what I've gone through be the anchor from keeping me up, from coming up again. But I just turn it around into a way that I can still live life to the fullest. So I missed out making the Paralympics trials by 0.33 seconds in the 100. But I still ended up meeting great people, in the process of trying to make the Paralympics. I was still trying to compete, Chris, still trying to compete through the breast cancer, through the amputation and all of that.
I was going to say, Donna, do you still have a few more minutes to stay on here? Because I was going to show your video, and then I just wanted to ask about your book and what that process was like, sharing your experience with dealing with and beating cancer as well. Okay, 1 second. I'm just going to show the clip. It's from your website, and it's a just over 4-minute clip.
And my age is 50 years old. I come from a family of 10, 4 boys and 6 girls. And so I used to get out on the basketball court with my brothers. Basketball was my passion. I lived a full life and never thought about cancer. And I was sitting there one morning and I just I felt my chest. And I was like, okay, what is this? The week before my diagnosis, as far as while I was waiting, I was going to run the race for the cure. And so at that moment, when I was running the race, I was in line in the front, and I thought to myself, wow, I knew that day that I was running for myself. When I went back to the doctor, probably a week after that or a couple of days, he did say that I had breast cancer, and I sat there stunned for a minute. But at that moment, though, the fight was on. I hate losing, and I wasn't about to lose a fight to breast cancer at that time. So I got prepared for the long haul. I wanted to live a normal life. I wanted to dive back into the things I did before because I didn't want cancer to change me. And I would come every day to the gym because that was my healing tool for myself. I think my second diagnosis was harder than the first diagnosis because they said they caught the cancer early the first time around, and I was doing everything I possibly could on my part to make sure that this didn't come about. And they said, you have cancer again, and this time it's closer to your chest wall.
I think the video just froze. Just bear with me. It must be my Wi-Fi connection. Okay, it's back.
Once again, I dived into sports. I went through the surgery, and then I wanted to run the race again. And the race for the cure was like the first weekend in June. And I was just getting out the hospital the day before the race. And I was pleading with my doctor. I said, hey, can I please run in this race? And so she allowed me to go to walk, bandage up and everything. Not only
I apologize.
that day was I walking for myself, but I was walking for all the other people, for my family, for my friends, to let them know that even though you get breast cancer, that you can live, that you can make it, and that you can overcome. What happened next after cancer? You would think that that would be enough, going.
I apologize, Donna. It must be my Wi-Fi signal. I usually don't have an issue with the video, so hopefully we can get it back up here again.
Through breast cancer twice and everything. But in 2010, June of 2010, I went through an unforeseeable medical disaster, I call it. I went in for simple female surgery, fibroid tumors, to get those removed. Was only supposed to be in the hospital for 5 days. But when the doctor came back and he said that in order for you to live, we have to take the leg off. 6 surgeries later, almost losing my life. It's just a blessing that I'm even here today, because the fight was on again. My PT people and everybody around me, they said, if anybody can come back, it will be you. So I'm pushing myself to get there. I know that the best is still yet to come. I think that me going through these 3 situations, that it's brought my family closer together. It makes them look at life a little different than what they looked at before. I think that if you have the right attitude, the right outlook on life, that you can overcome anything. So I've learned through sports and being competitive, I've learned to be a fighter. I've learned to be a winner.
Anyways, Donna, I apologize for the Wi-Fi connection freezing there, but I just really wanted to show my viewers here in Ontario, Canada, a little bit about your story, and I thank you for sharing it as well.
It's that you brought back memories right there, as far as the Under Armour campaign. After losing my leg, they had this campaign, and my niece said, I think that you should apply for that to try to get on. So I had one day to write my story up, ended up doing an interview, and ended up winning. They picked 3 breast cancer survivors that year. So I represented Under Armour in their Power Pink campaign. It was great. I mean, that video, every time I watch it, almost I be crying. I say, hey, you talk about yourself. But you know, the key thing in that video and just going through anything, like I said, is how you your attitude and how you move forward with whenever you go through anything devastated. So I tell people, because of all the things I've been through, I think I'm a better person because of what I went through.
And I was going to say, and I recently just got tested for colon cancer, turning 50, and thankfully I got my results back, and thankfully it was negative. But it's important to do your checks when you need to with your doctor and all that. And if something doesn't feel right, you also need to let your family doctor know as well.
Yeah, I was just getting ready to say October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. We're just a week or so away, and I would say to all women and even men, because men get breast cancer too, is to go get your checkups, because early detection does save lives. The second time around, it was through my mammogram that they found the lump, and it was cancer again. So had I not been going to my regular checkups to get the mammograms and so forth, Chris, I probably wouldn't be talking to you today. So it's important for men to go get the prostate a test, to other cancers, the breast cancers, and all of that. Is that don't miss out on your yearly appointments, because with the advancement in technology, with medicine and everything now, that you can live beyond. I'm 20 some years out from my first diagnosis. I think it's like 25 years or something like that. So I am a testimony that you can get through anything difficult, whether it's cancer, whether it's the amputation of the leg and whatever. And Chris, I tell people, I'm the most competitive person ever, and I don't like to lose at anything. So all the things and I think that attitude of being competitive and not wanting to lose at anything helped me get through the situations I've been through. And I tell people that whatever makes your heart beat, whatever puts a smile on your face, and whatever, the way I got through everything that I went through. And that's one reason I wrote the book, Getting to the Other Side of Victory. After I came out the hospital in 2010 with the amputation, I wanted to be true in what it takes to get to the other side of what you went through. So if anybody has ever been through anything in life and they found it hard to get through it, they should pick up my book, Getting to the Other Side of Victory, because it will help you to know how the process of how I got through the other side, to the other side of what I went through. And it could be a way of how to help somebody else get through it. How I got through it may not be the way you do, but I just believe that we can all get to the other side of whatever we have to face. So they can go to Amazon and still pick up the book. I think it will be Christmas is coming up, birthdays is coming up, and all of that. But I truly think that this book, I wrote it, I was truthful in the process of getting there, mentally, spiritually, professionally, of how I got there. And it's kind of funny too, in some parts funny. I talk about the basketball experience as far as the backyards and getting my arm caught in the ringer and all of those things. But I think that Getting to the Other Side is just a good book to help people get to the other side of whatever they're facing, because we can all get there.
Absolutely. I have your website down as well on my graphics. And I was going to say, what was the process like of writing your own story? And what was the timeline? Like, how long did it take you to finish the final product on your book?
It's funny because God dropped in my spirit, even while I was in the hospital, barely alive, because I came close to not even living through 2010, because I went in and got a staph infection. I mean, I went in first and they thought that I was internally bleeding. So, they kept opening me up. And we know that the more they open you up, the more you're susceptible to get infections. Then caught a staph infection. And then, the toes started turning blue and purple and black and all of that. And I had a clot in the foot that went up into my arm that almost killed me. So I started writing in the book while I was in the hospital, just kind of like jotting down notes and everything. So I knew I was going to write a book. And sometimes we go through things, it's not so much for us, but to help other people who are on the onlookers, I call them. So I came out the hospital, And I just started taking notes and everything, but I did not want to write the book immediately after I got out of the hospital. I wanted to kind of like go through the process of what it did take for me to get through it, because it was going to be some emotional, things. I jumped back into going to the gym and all those things. So I started writing the book about 2 years afterwards. But I had just been jotting down notes and starting the process because I wanted to take my time in writing the book, because I wanted people to kind of like go with me on my journey of what it really took. So if I had have wrote the book as soon as I got out of the hospital, I wouldn't have been truthful in the process, the falls, the frustrations of not being able to compete, looking at yourself differently, not liking what you went through, the spiritual end of it and the personal end of it. I wouldn't have been able to truthfully tell them the anger of having to go through or losing your limb at this stage of your life and what your future looked like. Wouldn't have been able to tell them how on the true side of getting to the other side of victory if I didn't take my time in writing the book. So I took my time. I think the book came out in 2017. So that means that it happened in 2010. So I took my time in writing it. Someone had said, we need to write your story and whatever. Well, nobody can write my story like me. So I wrote my own story because I felt that I could speak it the way I wanted to be spoke, or what I wanted to say in the book, and nobody can write your story like you can. So I just took my time in writing it. And then not only that, I had to go back to my friends who were there, some of my family members, because half the time, Chris, I didn't even know that I was among the living because I was so sick. So I had to go back and get notes from them as far as what took place, while I was laying on that bed, barely hanging on to life. Tell me what happened. So I had to get their side of what happened and, talk to the doctors. But then, go back home also and kind of like research my beginning in life. And the beginning of the book is about, as a child, how everything is set forward as far as, getting, my arm caught in the ringer, falling out the tree, having a concussion, some of the early injuries that set you up for being able to handle the bigger ones on down in your life. So I went back home and kind of grasped my roots of coming up. And most people don't realize that even going through the amputation at the time, my mom was sick. And after I came out the hospital, 6 months, she passed away. So not only did I have to deal with my own situation of losing a limb and the emotions behind all that, but I had to put that on the back burner to be able to help my other family members and myself deal with my mom passing away 6 months. So I didn't even have a time to come up for air to deal with my own thing, but I had to jump into action in being able to bury my mom, who was sick during the process of me going through that. So that's the reason why it took a little while to write the book. And I think sometimes that we have to take that time and step back to allow ourselves to heal so that we could tell the truth about what it took to get to the other side.
I was going to say, and also having a strong support system as well is huge in battling and fighting against cancer as well.
Yeah, it's so key because, and I tell people that the person going through the cancer or the difficult or the, misfortunes in life, it's the caregivers that also go through a tough time because they're emotionally sitting there. And I know I come from a family of 10 and I'm close to my sister that is the eighth child. I think I'm the eighth and she was the ninth and we're pretty close. So she had to make a lot of decisions when my mom was sick. So imagine you go into the hospital and nobody expecting you to come out that because it's supposed to be in and out, but no surgery is simple these days. But all of a sudden she had to deal with a sister almost close to death, and she had to make decisions because the doctors told them, they said, look, we've got three things. We're going to have to amputate. Almost came close to losing both hands and both legs. And they said, or else she can die. So you're trying to make decisions the best you could. I didn't even make the decision about having the amputation. My mom did because I was that sick, and she said she's an athlete, so she lives an active life. So she would want to have the lesser of the amputation being up above the knee because you're more limited. So they waited a long time, and they did it below. So, I can pretty much do almost everything and whatever that I did before because of the advancement in prosthetics. So, the support system is so key. And I think even more so, the support system is my faith. My faith was the thing that got me through a whole bunch, and the attitude and all of those things. So, you've got to have all those pieces. That's the reason why sometimes people don't make it, is that they need that support system, whether it's their friends, whether it's their family. Find that. And I tell people, if you need to go get help, professional help, go get that. If I had needed that, I would have been getting that. So whatever it is that you need to get, through whatever difficult it is, you need to find that, because we can all live through. Suicide rate is so high right now because people can't cope with, the COVID, can't cope with just the world as it is. So it's a need for us to be able to talk to someone that can help us get through life's difficult. And like I said, that we just need to be kinder and learn how to love people even more.
Absolutely. Now, are you okay just for a couple more minutes and a couple more questions?
Sure.
Okay, and I love hearing your story. It's powerful stuff, and sometimes things happen to all of us where we face adversity, but nobody's ever alone, and everyone else is fighting a battle as well. And like I said, I want to say thank you, Donna, for sharing your story on here as well. As much as I love sports, sports is not everything. It's just a form of entertainment, and your story is very powerful stuff. I wanted to ask you. About your motivational speaker. That's something that you just did recently? Have you been doing that a while now, being a motivational speaker?
Yeah, I started it when I started with the breast cancer, and people started in the cancer community asking you to speak at various events and everything. And then, after losing my leg, then that gave an opportunity. So people are always looking for speakers that have gone through difficult times and everything, because, you could, I tell people that I can't tell an alcoholic how to get through that, because I'm not a drinker or alcoholic or a person who uses drugs. But I can relate to people, because I help the cancer community by going to the doctors and everything with strangers I don't even know, because that's part of my foundation. So because of, what I went through, I just, people started asking me to speak at various events, whether it be corporate events, whether it be breast cancer events, whether it be for the cancer, the amputee community, or even like just motivational of helping people to get back up and get people going. That door just presented itself because of what I went through. And I'm a positive person. I mean, I told you I don't like to lose at anything, so I don't give people excuses to stay down. I tell people I can understand the situation you're going through. I can sympathize, I can empathize, but I'm a person that wants to get you back up to moving in life and not allow you to waste, your life away because of what you went through. I'm one of those people that will hug you, but I'm one of those people who would say, let's get moving again, because we can't lose in life. So I think that because of my attitude, and I try, and I'm a real person. I try to be real. What you see is what it is. And so I think that that's what has presented itself in the motivational speaking, is just because of what I went through in life and just my attitude.
Okay, and I was gonna say I'm gonna wrap this up with this question as well, and also I'm gonna admit this too. I've gone through a little bit of adversity in my life as well. When my father passed away when I was 13, 2 days before Christmas, and it took me a couple years to get over it. And I actually had to get counseling because being 13 at the time, I blamed myself for his death. So I've gone through a little different adversity in my life, but sometimes also people feel sorry for themselves, and you have to like you said, have a strong support system and people to talk to. And sometimes things happen to all of us, and maybe for 1 or 2 days it's okay, but you need to move on with your life as well and get back going.
You hit it, Chris. Can't say it much better than that. I mean, I
Okay.
think you go through the process of mourning, whatever the situation may be, but you don't allow your staff to stay stuck there.
Yeah, and I was told when I was younger I wouldn't get through school, I wouldn't amount to anything, and I used all that adversity as motivation to better myself. And I went through college, and now I'm looking at a new career at the age of 50 and trying to prove the naysayers and non-believers wrong as well.
And you know what? It's not even about proving them wrong. It's about you pursuing what you want to do for you. And nobody should allow anybody to say what they can, what they can't do, and
Good.
whatever. The only one that can say that, the only one that can hurt you is you. So despite what people speak into your ear, you don't receive it in your spirit.
Definitely. And I was going to say, last question I wanted to ask you, but I'd love to have you back on as a guest in the future as well. But any advice, Donna, for those, not just myself, looking to pursue a career in broadcasting in the media industry, and also for those who have had to battle with cancer as well?
Yeah, I was speaking to a college last year, and I told them the first thing I told individuals pursuing a career in broadcast is do a lot of volunteer work if you have to. I think that when we were in college, that you had to do. I think you had to do some kind of class and whatever. So I would say that if it's radio stations, if TV station, newspaper station, no matter how small and whatever, start there, because everybody always trying to want to be on the national level, and they want to immediately be there, and they don't want to go through the process of what it takes to get there. So take your time in learning the industry first of all, and then getting your own style, and then just getting to know different people, like the mentors that I had coming up. Get you a mentor that's able to help you through the process of what it takes to be in broadcasting from the beginning to the end. I mean, I took speech classes, I took other classes to perfect my craft and everything. So I think that just going through the process of internships, that's what I was trying to think of, internships. I did a lot of internships, and remember I told you I went to the stations with James Brown at his 6 o'clock broadcast, at the 11 o'clock, just sit in, didn't do anything, just kind of like watch what he was doing, taking notes, learning, picking his brain and whatever. So get you a mentor would be the thing that I would say first of all, and then try to do different internships, whether they're paying or non-paying. And then never allow, this is the thing that I said to people last year at the class, never allow anybody to tell you what success is. Because a lot of people would say that if you didn't make it to the ESPNs, the national level, the ABCs, the NBCs, CBSs, and all on that national level, even on the local level, that doesn't mean that you weren't successful. I've been doing this from radio, gospel station, from newspaper, human interest, writing for small ones, to Tony's show and all that. And I said, you know what? You're still, a lot of people that was on those national levels, local levels, they're not even in the field anymore. So you can't let people define what success looks like for you. You can only define what success looks like to you. And people get tripped up by allowing other people to say, if you didn't make it on that level, and then sometimes you say it to yourself. But the fact that if you're still in the broadcasting field or getting in there, you're successful, whether you've been there for 1 or 2 or 3 years or so forth. Never allow anybody to define what success looks like to you. And don't try to jump ahead so fast that you don't learn the ropes, that you're no longer in the field, but go through the process of learning it right. And for the cancer people, that people that are battling cancer and everything, it's not a death sentence. That I think that with you know, the advancement in medicine and everything, get your checkups. We already said that early, that people that have not gotten their checkups, please go get your checkups, whether you're a male or a female, whether it's breast cancer is men too, and other cancers and everything. Go get your checkups. And then going through the process, if you do have cancer and whatever, just make sure that if you need help, and to help you to get through the cancer and everything, whether it's to go get professional help, if you don't have family members or friends. But be truthful and talk about it, and not try to close yourself off from everybody and cry sadly. But find your friend that you can cry out loud to, because, and knowing that you can get through this. Just take one day at a time, one step at a time, and go through the process.
Very well said. And I was going to say, and I had a guest that just hit a like on here, and her name is Kelsey Nicole Nelson. She's from the Washington, D.C.
I know.
area. She's one of my friends, and she's an inspiration. And I've also had Angela Foster on from a Washington radio station. She's a weather person as well, newscaster. And I've been very lucky to have so many great guests on my show the last 2.5 years. And like I said, your story is really amazing, and I really appreciate you sharing it. And like I said, I hope to have you come back on again in the future, Donna.
Definitely, Chris. It's been fun, and it's good to get to say hello to you in person.
Definitely. If you can give me about 20 minutes after this podcast show is over, I'm going to download this to my audio platforms like Apple, Google, Spotify. And what I'll do is I'll send you a link to it on Twitter as well. And hopefully we can keep in touch on social media. And before I let you go, where can my audience follow you on social media and check out your website as well?
Yeah, I tell people the easiest thing is put in Donna J Hopkins. Just pull up my name. As far as for Twitter, I'm Donna J Hopkins. As far as DJ Hop for Instagram and Facebook is DJ Hop. And then actually, I tell people just put in my name, Donna J Hopkins, and it'll pull up all my social media and all the ways that you can keep in contact. And then, even for the website, again, if you want to order the book, go to Amazon to order Getting to the Other Side of Victory. And then my website, donnajhopkins.com.
Definitely. But
and then
definitely.
Follow
Sorry.
the Tony Pro Football Plus show. It's on MASN. So we put it on the YouTube channel on Tony McGee's Pro Football Plus. They can pull it up that way on YouTube, and then In the Minute podcast also on YouTube.
Okay, well, I've already followed Tony McGee's Pro Football Plus on YouTube, and then the podcast I will as well. Unfortunately, we don't get your network here in Canada, but thanks to social media and internet, I'll be able to do watch you on YouTube and also on the podcast as well. When is the podcast going to start, and what day and time normally?
Actually, we already started the podcast, so it's kind of like, we jump on when we have content, or when big stories or anything is breaking, we'll come on. And I normally post something each week during practice, either on Wednesdays or Thursdays, in the locker room, and then after game day, so they can already jump on the podcast in the minute, so they can grab that on YouTube. And like you said, a lot of people may not get MASN, in their area. So that's the reason why I started a YouTube channel where I can post the shows there so they can go and watch those shows, because we surely do have colorful guests.
Definitely. I was going to say good luck to your Washington Commanders, and definitely would like to hopefully get you back on again, maybe before the NFL playoffs start, and talk a little more football and a little more about your career and the Tony McGee Pro Football Plus show as well.
All right, Chris, it'll be fun. You know how to contact me.
Yes, definitely. And it's nice to befriend you, and we'll definitely keep on touching social media. And
good luck with you in your second career in what you're trying to do.
Trying to get into the radio industry, and I've got to just keep grinding away one day at a time, and keep working hard and keep improving as well, and keep getting great guests like yourself as well, Donna.
Thanks, Chris. Have a good day.
You too. Thank you, Donna. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed my podcast today with Donna Hopkins. She's a co-host reporter with the Tony McGee Pro Football Show in the Washington, D.C., Maryland area, and on a Mid-Atlantic Sports Network as well. So, guys, just to let you know, Live with CDP Sports Talk, again, is sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership at 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Auto Mall. You can check out barrycullen.com for their newest selections of used and new GM vehicles, or give them a call at 519-824-0210. I've been a customer of Barry Cullen Chevrolet here in Guelph since 2000, and I look forward to continuing my relationship with them in the future as a customer as well. But again, check out Barry Cullen Chevrolet dealership, 905 West Woodlawn Road West. 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Auto Mall. Or again, check out their website, barrycullen.com as well. Guys, just to let you know, I've got another podcast show tomorrow as well. I'm just going to put that right up on here, and it's a special episode for me. It's going to be episode number 200. My 200th episode of Live with CDP Sports Talk tomorrow. Again, sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet here in Guelph, will be tomorrow, Wednesday, September 28th, 4:45 Eastern, with Cameron Manna. He is a sports broadcaster in upstate New York, and I'm looking forward to speaking to Cameron about his college days and also doing play-by-play announcing and as a sports broadcaster and doing a TV host. And he grew up doing play-by-play games, being a New York Yankee fan. So I hope you guys can tune into my show tomorrow, season 4, episode 35, with Cameron Manna, sports broadcaster in the upper New York area. And this will be my 200th episode. So I want to say thank you to all my guests the last 2.5 years for coming on Live with CDP Sports Talk. And I've been really lucky to have amazing guests on here. And Donna Hopkins definitely had a great story to tell us today. And again, I want to say thank you to Donna for coming on and talking to us about her career and also about some Washington Commanders football and about her battle about being a 2-time breast cancer survivor as well. And I'm just going to put her websites on again before I wrap this show up, guys. You can follow Donna on Twitter at Donna Hopkins _. And you can also check out her website, DonnaJHopkins.com. And that's where you can purchase her book as well, Getting to the Other Side of Victory, which was published in April of 2018. And also, guys, her other website you can check out, or this is her other website, HopkinsBCINC.org. That's HopkinsBCINC.org as well. So again, I want to say thank you to Donna for coming on here today again. And also, before I wrap up this podcast show, guys, like I do with all my shows, Live with CDP podcast, the audio version is downloaded to Google Podcasts, Anchor FM, Apple Podcasts, Breaker, Pocket Casts, Radio Public, Spotify, Castbox, and LinkedIn. And that's about it, guys. Again, I'm looking forward to my next show tomorrow, and that will be at 4:45 Eastern with Cameron Manna, up-and-coming sports broadcaster from the upstate New York area as well. And you guys can also check out my website, beacons.ai/Chris D. Palme as well. And you guys can follow me on TikTok at Live with CDP as well. And I'm on all the other social media platforms as well. Before I wrap this up, guys, I am doing the Argo Bounce live audio show tonight on Twitter Spaces at 9 o'clock Eastern with my co-host, Nick Small. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, at Chris D. Palme. That's at Chris D. Palme, Pomay. And I will be there at 9 o'clock with Nick Small, my co-host. And we're going to talk about the Toronto Argonauts, their latest victory over Ottawa, 45-14 on Saturday night as well. If not, I hope you guys can tune in tomorrow to my 200th ever episode of Live with CDP Sports Talk. Again, sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet dealership at 905 Woodlawn Road in the Guelph Auto Mall. Check out barrycullen.com. And that's about it. Again, I want to say thank you to Donna Hopkins for coming on, and thank you to everybody watching this live on my YouTube channel. Please hit subscribe and hit like if you already haven't. And also thank you to everyone watching on Facebook Live and on Twitter and on my audio platforms such as Apple, Google, Spotify, Anchor FM. So I hope everybody has a great day. And look forward to my Argo Bounce show tonight at 9, and then my 200th episode here tomorrow at 4:45. I hope you guys have a great evening, and we'll see you guys either on Twitter Spaces tonight at 9 p.m. or here tomorrow at 4:45. Good night, everybody, and thanks for watching and listening to Live with CDP Sports Talk, brought to you by Barry Collins Chevrolet dealership here in Guelph.